Welcome to This Explainer. You know, if you think dahlias are just quiet, background foliage designed to simply fill out a garden space, well, think again. This is a flower that arrives on the scene as if it's just been cast in the absolute lead role of a blockbuster production. It is the undeniable diva of the garden, a flower that literally demands the spotlight the exact moment it blooms. So today, we're going to unpack the fascinating and honestly highly surprising story of this incredible plant. We'll explore everything from the hidden complexities of its biology to its deeply unexpected history, and hopefully by the end of this, we'll all see this familiar flower in a completely new light.
Okay, let's dive into this. 57,000. Now, in the botanical world, a number like this is truly staggering. We're not talking about the number of seeds in a field or petals in a bouquet here. No, this represents the sheer amount of cultivated varieties that currently exist for this single magnificent flower. Natively hailing from Mexico, this extraordinary plant is actually a member of the daisy family. But, while a standard daisy is beautiful in its simplicity, the dahlia has practically reinvented itself tens of thousands of times over. So how is it physically possible for one single type of flower to have so many wildly different looks, shapes, and variations? Well, the answer lies deep inside its cells.
The biological secret weapon behind all of that incredible variety is that dahlias are octoploids. Now, you might be wondering what that actually means. While most organisms have a relatively simple genetic structure, octoploids possess an astonishing 8 sets of chromosomes. This gives the dahlia highly unusual and incredibly complex genetics. Think of chromosomes like an instruction manual for how a living thing should look and grow. While most plants are working with, say, a basic pamphlet of instructions, the dahlia, it's working with an entire 8-volume encyclopedia. This massive genetic library allows for an almost infinite mixing and matching of traits. It's literally the biological engine that drives those 57,000 varieties we just talked about, allowing the plant to experiment with its own design in ways most other flowers simply can't do.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what all of those complex chromosomes can produce out in the real world. On one hand, you can have blooms that are described as tiny buttons, these compact, delicate, tightly wound little spheres of color that could easily rest right on the tip of your thumb. But then, on the flip side, you can have massive blooms that reach an incredible 36 centimeters across. Let that sink in for a second. 36 centimeters. That's over 14 inches. We're talking the size of a large dinner plate or an entire car hubcap, all created by a single flower. The extreme physical sizes made possible by those 8 sets of chromosomes are absolutely mind-blowing. You've got the exact same underlying family of plant producing both the tiniest, most modest little button and an absolute giant that completely dominates whatever space it occupies.
But as captivating as its physical appearance is, the dahlia isn't just a pretty face. Its history is just as colorful and, frankly, completely unexpected. We're going to move away from the modern garden now and travel back in time to the Aztec era. You see, when we think of a flower built for such intense visual drama, we naturally assume it was always prized strictly for its beauty, right? Like something to be put in a vase or admired in a royal courtyard. But the historical narrative of the dahlia is rooted in something way more rugged. The Aztecs didn't look at this plant and just see a delicate ornamental flower. They saw a highly functional, surprisingly utilitarian crop. It's such an incredible irony that nature's lead actor started its relationship with humanity not on a stage, but in the literal trenches of daily survival.
Let's walk through exactly what that utility looked like, point by point, because it really is fascinating. First up, the Aztecs actually grew dahlias for their edible tubers. Yep, hidden right beneath those spectacular blooms was a reliable source of food. Second, they found specific medicinal uses for the plant, utilizing its natural properties for healing and overall health. But this third point, this is the one that absolutely blows my mind. Their hollow stems were utilized as natural water pipes. I mean, just imagine that. You have this breathtakingly beautiful, complex plant, and the Aztecs are out there using its sturdy, hollow stems as actual municipal plumbing. It's such a stark, wonderful contrast, isn't it? Above ground, you have the genetic capability for massive aesthetic marvels, and below ground, you have this incredibly practical infrastructure providing essential plumbing and medicine.
And believe it or not, this utilitarian reputation actually followed the plant when it eventually crossed the ocean. When dahlias reached Europe in the 18th century, they weren't introduced as the gorgeous centerpiece of some grand royal garden. They were introduced as a food crop. People looked at the dahlia and thought, great, something new to eat. But this led to a rather humorous historical pivot. It didn't take long for European gardeners and farmers to realize that, well, while the tubers were technically edible, they weren't exactly a culinary masterpiece. Actually, let's just say they weren't winning any flavor awards.
So people quickly decided that these plants were vastly more appealing off the menu than on it. They looked at the breathtaking flowers blooming above the soil and made the collective decision to shift the dahlia right out of the vegetable patch and into the ornamental garden, fully embracing its pure visual appeal.
So once the dahlia was firmly established as an ornamental treasure, gardeners and botanists basically began obsessing over its aesthetic wardrobe. I mean, with 57,000 varieties, it kind of seems like the dahlia can do absolutely anything. It blooms in nearly every color imaginable, creating this vibrant, dazzling spectrum across gardens worldwide. But that brings us to a really engaging question. Does a true blue or black dahlia actually exist? When a plant has 8 sets of chromosomes and can grow to the size of a dinner plate, you'd probably think the answer is an obvious yes. Human beings love rarity, and the quest for the elusive blue or perfectly black flower has driven gardeners slightly crazy for centuries. So what is the actual truth about the dahlia's color palette?
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it completely debunks those long-held color myths. Despite its massive 8-volume genetic library, the dahlia actually has some pretty strict limitations hidden right within its DNA. A true blue dahlia simply does not exist. No way! It's genetically impossible for the plant to produce that specific pigment naturally. And what about those famous, moody, gothic black dahlias that you might see heavily edited in photos or given super dramatic names in seed catalogs? Well, in reality, they're actually just deep, dark shades of burgundy. No matter how incredibly complex its octoploid genetics are, the dahlia is still bound by the fundamental rules of its own biology. It can give us tens of thousands of variations, sure, but it firmly draws the line at true blue and true black.
So, from its origins as Aztec food and plumbing, to its mistaken identity as an 18th century European vegetable, to its ultimate reign as the undisputed diva of the ornamental garden, the dahlia has had quite the journey. But that journey came to a really beautiful, full-circle climax in 1963. This was the year that the dahlia was officially declared the national flower of Mexico. It was a formal recognition of the plant's deep roots in the region's history, honoring everything from its ancient utilitarian days with the Aztecs all the way to its modern status as a global botanical icon. The dahlia finally received the ultimate starring role in the very place where its whole story began.
As the quote right here says, some plants are simply born to stand out. The dahlia doesn't just fill a space, it completely redefines it. It's an absolute masterclass in the wonders of biology, hiding incredibly complex 8-chromosome genetics behind every single petal. It forces us to rethink our assumptions, reminding us that a flower of unparalleled beauty was once utilized for its rugged, hollow stems and edible roots. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on. If the common dahlia, a flower you can easily find at your local garden center today, hides such a rich, astonishing resume of genetics, ancient plumbing, and culinary history, what other incredible secrets are quietly growing right now in your own backyard? Keep your eyes open and never underestimate the plants around you. Thanks for learning with me today.